right, welcome everybody. It's been a while. We haven't had a tournament breakdown, although there's been some pauper tournaments going around. But we recently, this last weekend, had Acrotar, and he came in, got back into the running the tournament scene. We had a good turnout for the tournament, and we had some guest shoutcasters who you may know. Elmanbeastio, Ming is the King, and Dresbo. Dresbo's not going to be here with us today, but I was able to snag me Elmanbeastio, Ming is the King. Two guys that actually got to watch and cast through the tournament as it went along. You can see the placements right there. First place was King Chocolate. BK 2710 took second place. Rocco, Pedalia taking third and fourth respectively. Fifth and eighth being rounded out by more crew, and a lot of stuff given around. But since I wasn't there and I didn't get a chance to see it, I thought I'd bring in these guys to break down a little bit. So to Elmanbeastio and Ming, what did we see this tournament? Like, what were the big trends? What was the top deck like? Fill me in. Fill us in.
So I guess I'll start off because I obviously everyone to talk about the finals. That's usually where people first go to, but wanted to break down some of the highlights, right? Before we got to the finals, and so some of the cool highlights, at least for me, were one of the Magmar decks. I think it was Roku. He was playing like Elucidator, Dire Tide, Boss, Spirit Harvester. He was playing like 5 or 6 different cards that you all had to manage, right? Because like you can't Elucidator while your claws are down, because Elucidator hits your claws. But while you're playing with claws, you don't have that many minions. So if you have Spirit Harvester, you destroy your opponent's side of the board. Spirit Harvester is one of the most underrated cards, I feel. And so I feel like seeing that semi-rush, semi-control archetype that he brought to the tournament was really cool. And it caught a lot of people off guard. I think he got second? Sorry. He got third or fourth, sorry. But yeah, the archetype was pretty good. We saw Vanner, corner, Vitruvian. I think it was El Caesar against Prozac. Vanner cornered Vitruvian. Vitruvian played Aymara, and Vanner went like, I don't care. I'm gonna kill her, heal you, and still kill you through it, because he has so many dudes on that Razorback.
That was an amazing play. That was my favorite play of the tournament.
Yeah, that was like really, really good. Like everyone's like, oh, no problem, kill you through it. Like everyone in Twitch chat. So those two are probably like some of the non-finals highlight. And then we had everyone was pretty cool. We had like we casted pretty much consistently for like 3 or 4 hours, and then we had some downtime because we couldn't find like a stream or screen share for like a while, and everyone stayed with us. Me, Ming, and Dresbo, like we're trying to entertain like 50 people on Twitch chat with no game playing, and people stayed with us. That was really cool. We were talking about a lot of different topics. And then the match before finals, we still had Cass in it. When we finally get a screenshot of the match, the first thing someone notices is the Abyssian player has more Magmar units than the Magmar player. Because he basically, he did, I think it was Senrui on a young Silithar, and then Sural brought back the Silithar later on after he had died. So there was 2 young Silithars on Abyssian side. And that was kind of funny to us. That's the first thing we see on the screen. It was just hilarious. And then, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I remember we logged in and you looked at the screen and it looked like they were pretty even. And then you were like, wait a minute, the young Silithars are facing the other direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are like the more noticeable highlights before the finals, right? Ming has anything to add on that too?
Yeah, those were, I mean, pretty much covered all my favorite moments. I think it was notable that every faction except Vanar had someone in the top 8, and Vanar was essentially one top deck away from it. That last one between Caesar and Prozac were extremely close. And to be fair, had Caesar won, then Vitruvian wouldn't have been in the 8. We also saw a lot of Magmar versus Lionar this tournament. And I found that very interesting because Lionar sort of gets ragged on a lot, right? And at the same time, Magmar, with its life mate Songhai, gets the bad reputation for being dirty. And so seeing this underdog versus dominant matchup play out across the tournament and have it come out pretty even the whole time was really interesting. So
Lionel ended up being in the finals, which we'll get to in a second.
yeah. And let's see, what else? Oh, Roku was running a deck with no legendaries. And he didn't really change his deck much. He didn't even have 3 War Beasts in his deck. So, congratulations to him. And then They Call Me Chocolate. One of his decks had 16 legendaries in it. So I guess he was like, Roku's not running any legendaries. I better the average.
Yeah, I see it.
But I wouldn't call it pay to win, right? It's more like this just highlights the huge amount of diversity and the playability of all these cards. To your point about Spirit Harvester and Elucidator and all that, people are playing cards that aren't commonly held up as the best in class. So
yeah.
so that's really good. That bodes really positively for the balance of the game.
So I guess talk about the finals now. It's like
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, he had a lot of legendaries. He did have 4 decks prepared. He only ended up using 2 of them. And by the way, there's the stream, Acrotar stream. I think it's the same one as the one on the forums, Duelyst tournaments. It has the VOD, right? So people can see everything. But he had the 4 deck archetypes. He played only 2. And basically it was one of the greediest Darkfire Sacrifice Abyssian Curse I've seen in ever. So there was a lot of highlight cards there, like Archon Spellbinder, Surreal. Was the Surreal the Life Giver, right?
Yeah.
There were Revenants. The Revenants would come back with the Surreal, and they have Rush, so they might get to attack that same turn. Vorpal Reaver. And a small package of, like, I guess the staples: Lady Lock, Starlack, Darkfire Sacrifice, Void Pulse. And then one of the big differences I ended up pointing out is there's no lures, but there's 3 Ritual Vanishings. And if you see that he actually had a bunch of different cards, I guess, because he kind of started with one deck and then switched to another, and he actually stayed with that second deck, I think, the whole time after. But we saw Deathfire Crescendos and Rat of the Undervolts, I think, at least in the different versions, right?
So there were 2 decks, right? One that he called Midrange, which is the deck he always led off with, and that was a Consuming Rebirth deck. He had some 2-drops, right, with like Healing Mystic and Mana Forger, and then that curved into a Deathfire Crescendo, Shadow Dancer, like Wraithling Swarms, and then topped with Spectral Revenant. His other deck was what he called Control, and that was the 16 legendary deck that had, the Lady Lock, Sarlacc, Healing Mystic, and Assassin in the early game, and then the whole point was just once he's on like turn 5, he's playing a 6 or 7 drop every turn until you're dead.
Yeah. Like, the synergy was pretty good because the Surreal Revenant is just so devastating if it spawns nearby. And it's especially kind of hard for Lionar to deal with it. Lionar was the finalist, it was Maddox or BK 2710. So I guess people didn't really try to look at how you beat the deck. They kind of just saw that it won. But some of the things you can do to stop the Surreal is transforms work, because Surreal only brings back quote unquote collectible cards. So Wraithlings don't come back, eggs don't come back. The other thing is Surreal only revives things that died on the opponent's turn. So if you can basically provoke and force your opponent to do the trades, then Surreal can't actually work, right? He'll just be a 4/7. But Lionheart can't doesn't have transforms. So when you're duking it out against Revenants and Purple Reavers and Archons, it's a little hard to play on the Surreal, right? So he kind of undoes your last turn, and it's so hard to catch up against damage value, right?
Yeah, and to be fair, the Zuriel is specifically good against another slower mid to late game deck like Lionar, Magmar. Zuriel is good against those things, whereas if he was playing against Songhai, he'd probably never play that deck.
Yeah, of course. Another thing is, we saw a couple of empty plays from Chocolate, but that sort of came out as a result of not having, like, sometimes he did have a good amount of twos, but not like 12, 15 or whatever. I think he ended up at 12 maybe, but
he was running three
3 maybe?
two drops in the control deck, and then 3 in the mid range. So 6 and 9.
Well, however many he had, he did miss the 2 drops, right? The turn 1 plays.
I don't think he hit a 2 drop at all in any of the games.
So the 2 things that to take away from that is he did end up greeting, so his Darkfire sacrifices are like super consistent because he has a lot of things to play off of it. But at the same time, he's missing early drops, and he did the finals ended up being 4-2, right? So Maddox did take a few games. He rushed them down. It is possible to rush the deck down because you're so greedy, right? And you're also missing drops early game. What Maddox was doing was all the value Lionard things, the early drops with Azurite Shaman, right? That's what the name is. Azure Horn Shaman.
Yeah, he was going for the Azure Horn Shaman, and was it 4-2 or 4-1? Either way, there was one game where Maddox just crushed Chocolate, and that was the one where Chocolate missed 2 drops in a row and was forced to take a goat buff in the face.
Yeah.
Ow.
And then his only shot of recovery was Zenrui on a 2/8 Arclight Sentinel, but Maddox had 2 Templars in play, so the 2/8 was meaningless because it would help immediately.
Yeah, I think Maddox took 2 games. I think they were both nearly identical wins. I think the Astor Horn buffed 4 people both games that he won. I might be, hopefully I'm not wrong on that, but he buffed, like, he got 16 health or 12, 16 each time. So it's like so hard to kill that with Abyssian. There's no way you're AoEing that down.
He got either every time he got a lot of benefit off of it, and so then just didn't have time to get his big drops in play.
Yeah.
But then we had one game where Chocolate dropped an Archon to a clear board.
And let me tell you, Archon at 7/9 when your spells cost more on turn 2 is kind of hard to deal with. And the Archon did like 21 or 28 damage before it died. Like, it took over the game. At one point, we all joked around about how Maddox needed to play a Circle of Life, and he just couldn't. It was turn 5, and the Archon wouldn't let that happen. So the Archon went to town that game. That was like a nearly instant win. But sorry, so something I wanted to mention really quick about the Azure Horn is that Maddox could force the pops with Arclight Sentinel. So sometimes people ignore the Azure Horn because you're helping them, right? If you set it up for next turn by attacking with the general, then they attack back and they buff all their guys. But if you have Arclight Sentinel, you instantly force it. So
yeah, both the Sentinel and Frostbone Naga are pretty reasonable applications of it.
Yeah. But going back to the Archon thing. That game was a blowout, and then we saw a few other wins where, like, Lionel has pretty good late game, but it's so hard to win against ramped up big threat into follow up big threat into follow up big threat into Sorrel. Get all my guys back.
Yeah, there was one game where they were fairly even. Maddox had just taken tempo, but it was Chocolate's turn, and then he plays Surreal to get his Spectral Revenant back, and then the Revenant hits Maddox for 6, and it was over from that point on.
Revenant has always been like pretty dangerous against lineup because they sort of outlast you by the huge amount of health they have, and Revenant kind of does both at the same time. And it's like, well, we're not winning on two fronts. Like they try and win on board and by staying healthy, and Revenant actually tries to take board back and does the health damage. So then it's just even worse with Sura, right? It's like 4/7 plus as a Revenant. Oh god.
Yeah. Your precious Abyssian was touched by this patch.
No, they got slightly buffed.
Yeah, they got slightly buffed. So expect to see a lot of Abyssian on the ladder, boys.
Also, can I ask you why precious Abyssian? Like they're not little like dollies, like precious Abyssian.
I don't know.
Are you saying that Wraithlings are little cute precious resources to be killed and used to maim your opponents?
Oh my god, not this.
I mean, the Songhai are precious to me.
All right, that's
Dude,
fair.
have you seen
That's
Mana
fair.
Forger? His little cute little belly. You just want to rub it.
Like
Hoo-hoo.
we'll see. Like it's so yeah, that actually reminds me something we tried to tell people in the stream was the tournament and the ladder are different, right? Like hugely different, especially with so there's two things. You could know what faction the person was playing before you even play game one. And then there's infinite sideboard rule. So as long as you stay in your faction, you can play anything in your faction, right? And so when you go to ladder, like why everyone sort of hates Songhai, right? It's like you're facing the rush deck that you have to be so ready against and play really well against, right? And there's no infinite sideboard, and you don't know you were playing Songhai until you're in the match, right? And then when you're playing in the tournament, you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna sideboard, I'm gonna death watch the hell out of this banner deck. I'm gonna run like 700 heals against the Songhai. I'm gonna have 3 Rust Crawlers, which are completely unviable in ladder, but I'm gonna have 3 Rust Crawlers against Vitruvian, things like that, right? And it changes the dynamic a lot. And
Yeah,
then, like
it's
you
a
said,
completely different format.
yeah. And then, like you said, they didn't touch Abyss in this patch, but they won the last tournament. Like, nerf them already, damn it. But no, like, it's not the same beast. Like, can't treat them like that. And obviously, I would say you change the game for ladder, which is a huge majority of the games that are being played.
Yep, I agree.
And analyze the game different. The tournament's different. You learn from them, but be careful about it,
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty solid breakdown of everything that happened right there. Again, if anybody wants to check out Acrotar's stream, go watch like the full finals or any of the other stuff. You can check it out, twitch.tv/Duelyst tournaments. Highlights are already up there, so go check that out. And also, go look forward to the next tournaments, because I know they probably already got a straw poll up asking questions about what people want to see in the future. It's a great way to get involved in the community and meet other players and level up. And also, you can win some gold just for participating around. There's 8 random gold prizes they can hand out just for people for showing up and playing. So nothing to pretty much lose, pretty much win-win. So thanks again to Elmanbeastio and Ming for joining me today, and we'll see you next tournament breakdown.
All right, thanks, Pato.